Welcome back to my channel. Today we will learn about the issue currently unfolding on CBS's The Bold and the Beautiful. In this latest turn of events, Dr. John Finnegan has discovered a startling piece of information regarding the young woman named Luna, and the fallout from this discovery touches on past DNA tests, potential lab manipulation, and a renewed sense of uncertainty about paternity. Below is a thorough recounting of the situation, focusing on the central developments and the possible consequences for Finn, Steffi, Hayes, and even April, the laboratory technician at the heart of these alarming revelations. From the outset, Finn's life seemed to be on solid ground. He has navigated his role as a dedicated doctor and as a loving husband to Steffi Forrester, all the while striving to maintain some semblance of calm amidst the perennial chaos that surrounds the Forrester, Logan, and Spencer families. Over time, Finn has come to learn that the peace he yearns for can prove elusive, given the myriad entanglements at Forrester Creations and the complex personal histories that link these characters. Nevertheless, Finn has consistently approached each challenge with compassion, science-based reasoning, and a genuine determination to protect Steffi and their loved ones. Recently, however, Finn found himself confronting an entirely new dilemma. He administered a DNA test on Luna, spurred by inconclusive rumors and scattered bits of evidence that hinted at a surprising connection between them. Intrigued by the possibility and guided by his medical training, Finn opted to rely on science to provide definitive answers. To his astonishment, the lab results pointed to him as Luna's biological father. He was thrown off balance, unsure how to process the idea that he might have a daughter he never knew existed. Despite his shock, he tried to remain calm and consider the factors that might have led to this scenario, reflecting on whether he might have crossed paths with Luna's mother in a way he did not fully recall. In searching for clarity, Finn began to note a series of odd inconsistencies. For one, Luna herself had reportedly undergone several DNA tests in the past, each yielding contradictory results. That alone caused Finn to wonder if someone was tampering with the tests for reasons unknown. As he reviewed old documentation and tried to figure out why these inconsistencies persisted, he could not help but recall the name of April, the laboratory technician who had famously handled other sensitive paternity tests at critical moments in the Forrester family saga. Given his training, Finn knows that laboratory errors can happen, but multiple errors on multiple tests seemed less likely to be coincidence and more likely to be malicious interference. A flash of memory seized him. Months prior, Steffi found herself pregnant, and the question of paternity loomed large. Would the father be Finn or Liam Spencer, the man who has been connected to Steffi for years? When those particular test results came back, they indicated that Finn was the father of Steffi's unborn child, ultimately leading them to name the child Hayes. At the time, everyone took the result as fact, forging forward with the assumption that Finn and Steffi would raise Hayes together as a family. Finn had been overjoyed at the news, while Liam accepted it and tried to respect boundaries. However, the memory of April's involvement in that prior paternity test began to weigh on Finn. If Luna's DNA results could be manipulated, then perhaps earlier tests could also have been subject to tampering. Finn found himself consumed by worry. What if April's games, as he increasingly suspected them to be, stretched back much further than anyone realized? What if she had fabricated more than one test result, effectively rearranging entire families' lives at her whim? Concerned about the possibilities, Finn determined to confirm once and for all whether the initial reading, that he is Hayes' father, remains legitimate. He had, after all, spent all this time believing wholeheartedly that Hayes was biologically his. If the same lab technician who handled Luna's test had also handled Steffi's pregnancy test, the specter of fraud could reach into the core of his most treasured relationships. Eager for a real answer, Finn decided to take matters into his own hands. Quietly, he collected a hair sample from Hayes, then performed a new DNA test under secure conditions, using a lab he trusted and ensuring that no one else, especially not April, had any opportunity to influence the outcome. Days of tense anticipation followed. Finn tried to keep his worry hidden from Steffi, aware that she was juggling the demands of family life and her ongoing role within Forster Creations. He remembered her heartbreak when she learned she was pregnant under uncertain paternity circumstances. Reliving that era of doubt and confusion would be devastating for both of them. However, Finn felt he had little choice. The anxiety gnawed at him. If the results cast everything he believed into doubt, his marriage and fatherhood journey could take an unimaginable turn. When the test results arrived, the answer left Finn reeling. The new, carefully guarded test results indicated that the entire notion that he was Luna's father might have been based on tampered data. In other words, Luna was not his biological daughter after all. A wave of heartbreak swept over Finn. The initial test he had done, which suggested paternity, now seemed like yet another carefully orchestrated deception by April. All those hours he had spent trying to process the idea of having a long-lost daughter crumbled into a painful sense of betrayal. Not only did this revelation crush the fragile hope Finn had of building a bond with Luna, but it also fanned the flame of suspicion that all of April's previous test results, perhaps even those for Hayes, could have been manipulated for reasons no one yet understood. In that dark moment, Finn's mind raced. He recalled how deeply he was affected upon first reading that he might be Luna's father, and the confusion that set in when he tried to piece together how it could have happened in the timeline of his life. He wondered whether Luna herself suspected that something was amiss. After all, she had attempted multiple paternity tests, which clearly pointed to an inconsistent chain of events. Had Luna ever suspected that April, the technician, was the puppet master behind it all? And if so, why had she not raised alarms sooner? In the swirl of these questions, Finn also considered what the test might say about Hayes' paternity. The most recent results Finn obtained were specifically checking whether Finn was the father of Hayes or not, but the user-provided storyline focuses on Luna's test. There is, however, the looming implication that Finn's trust in any test result produced by April is completely destroyed. If she had falsified the outcome for Luna, what prevented her from tampering with Hayes' original test? Did the same scheme that incorrectly labeled Finn as Luna's father also incorrectly label him as Hayes' father? Or was only one set of results manipulated? Finn found himself in an emotional quagmire, terrified that if he delved further, he might discover Hayes' paternity was equally compromised. Yet he also knew he could not simply live with illusions. If the child he had been raising was not truly his, it would be a discovery that would upend his marriage, his sense of fatherhood, and the entire dynamic he shared with Steffi and Liam. Agonizing over the possibility of losing his family, Finn weighed his options. Outwardly, he continued to put up a calm facade for Steffi's sake, but internally he reeled from a combination of rage and sadness. He confided to no one, not even Steffi, the full extent of his suspicions. Instead, he resolved to gather proof that April had systematically tampered with multiple DNA results. Only then could he decide how best to proceed without causing more harm to those he loved, especially if it turned out that Hayes' test was fraudulent as well. Still, Finn's heartbreak over Luna was immediate and raw. Believing, for at least a little while, that he was her father had lit a spark of paternal instinct within him. Learning that the initial test was a lie left him wounded and confused. Luna herself might not even know the identity of her real father if the manipulations extended across all of her previous tests. His empathy for her situation clashed with his anger at April for playing with people's lives. As he tried to move forward, Finn understood that revealing the truth about the Luna test, or about any potential falsehood in Hayes' paternity, could shatter his marriage to Steffi. He dreaded the possibility of losing her trust. If it came out that Hayes might not be his son after all, the emotional repercussions would be vast. Steffi would be devastated. Liam might be forced to revisit old feelings. And the entire Forrester-Spencer dynamic could be shattered in ways that might take years to mend. The last thing Finn wanted was to put Steffi through more turmoil, especially if the final conclusion was that Hayes really was his child. Tainting that sense of fatherhood with suspicion before he had concrete evidence could lead to irreversible damage. Accordingly, Finn decided to keep this discovery secret for the time being, especially the revelation that the Luna is your daughter test was invalid. He resolved to spare Steffi and Hayes the painful confusion until he had definitive answers about every angle of the situation. He knew well that in the bold and the beautiful, secrets never stay buried for long, but he hoped to buy enough time to conduct a thorough private investigation. The object of that investigation was, of course, April. Finn had never suspected that a benign-sounding lab technician might harbor such dangerous inclinations. Yet the mounting evidence and conflicting DNA tests painted her as someone who might enjoy controlling people's lives from behind the scenes. Whether April's motivations were financial, personal, or purely for the twisted thrill of power, Finn was determined to see her face justice. He began quietly retracing the steps of every DNA test involving Forrester or Spencer family members that April had ever overseen. He reached out to hospital contacts, double-checked records, and used his knowledge of medical procedures to identify potential tampering. One difficulty was that April would surely have covered her tracks. If she had indeed been altering test results for some time, she likely would have become adept at forging data or swapping samples. Nonetheless, Finn's medical training and access to hospital staff gave him a valuable advantage. He was prepared to chase down anomalies, cross-reference chain of custody documentation, and interview anyone who might recall suspicious behavior. The more Finn researched, the more he suspected that April's interference might extend further than just Luna's paternity test. Whose results had she manipulated, and how many families might have been affected by her actions? As the days passed, Finn felt his temper flare whenever he thought about the heartbreak April had inflicted on him and possibly on others. He could not bring himself to confide in Steffi or his in-laws because he feared the fallout. The rumor mill in their tight-knit circle is relentless, and the moment even a hint of suspicion surfaced that Hayes might not be Finn's child, chaos would follow. He wanted to be absolutely certain of his facts and have a strong case against April before telling anyone. If he failed to gather indisputable proof, he risked inciting a crisis that could tear families apart without any real resolution. Meanwhile, the rest of the Forrester world carried on, blissfully unaware of the storm raging in Finn's mind. Steffi was busy balancing her responsibilities at Forrester Creations with the usual swirl of family drama, which often involves her father Ridge, her half-siblings, and the occasional interjection from Bill Spencer or the Logan clan. Liam, as far as anyone knew, still believed that Hayes was Finn's child and had no reason to suspect anything different. Luna's uncertain background remained a footnote in many people's minds, overshadowed by the more established relationships in the Forrester universe. No one suspected that the question of Luna's paternity could be the key that unlocked a larger scandal involving manipulated test results. Deep down, Finn struggled with guilt over lying by omission to Steffi. They had promised each other honesty and partnership, building a relationship that overcame the numerous obstacles thrown their way. Yet here he was concealing crucial information that had the power to change both of their lives forever. The knowledge weighed on him every moment he shared with her, whether they were discussing mundane household matters or planning family events with Hayes. He hoped that by proceeding discreetly with his plan to uncover April's alleged crimes, He was protecting Steffi from unnecessary heartache until he possessed the full story. That mindset sustained him when the magnitude of the deception became too much to bear. April, he concluded, was a far more formidable adversary than anyone realized. If she had truly manipulated not one, but multiple paternity results, Luna's, Hayes's, or others, then no family connected to Forster Creations was entirely safe from the repercussions. Finn's anger flared in quiet moments. How dare someone exploit his profession and manipulate the very tests that are meant to provide clarity in life-altering situations? He had dedicated himself to healing and helping others, but April's meddling perverted the system into a tool for personal intrigue. He resolved that once he had the evidence in hand, he would turn it over to law enforcement and push for April's arrest. A prison sentence, he believed, was the only suitable outcome for someone who caused such emotional havoc. All of this set the stage for a gripping storyline in which Finn operates in secret, balancing his professional duties, his personal devotion to Steffi, and his determination to expose April's wrongdoing. At the same time, the specter of Hayes's paternity lurks unspoken. Is Finn truly the father, or did April's manipulations rob him of the chance to face that reality head-on? If it turns out Liam is truly Hayes's father, the show's dynamic could shift drastically, threatening not only Finn's marriage but also the emotional stability of everyone in that orbit. While these questions remain unresolved in the immediate term, certain points loom large. Finn's heartbreak over believing, then disbelieving, that Luna was his daughter highlights the powerful sway these DNA tests hold over the characters' lives. At the same time, it illustrates how easily everything can spiral into chaos when a single rogue individual decides to meddle. April's capability for forging or altering test results casts a pall over every paternity claim made within that lab, raising the possibility that other storylines, long believed settled, might be reopened. Finn's vow to keep this secret from Steffi for the moment underscores how far he's willing to go to maintain stability for his family, even if that means shouldering a private burden of doubt and sorrow. From a broader perspective, the Forster universe has always hinged on the interplay of family, romance, and business. Paternity revelations, for their part, are a staple of soap opera drama. What sets this storyline apart is the idea that an external party, a lab technician who should, in theory, have no stake in the drama, is actively manipulating results as some twisted game. Finn's quest to expose April could become one of the most consequential investigations in recent memory, potentially unraveling or reshaping established truths about the show's core families. Steffi, for her part, is in for a shock if she ever learns that Finn questioned Hayes' paternity in secret. She might perceive it as a breach of trust, especially if he uncovers that Hayes might not be biologically his. Liam, too, faces his own world being upended if the truth points to him as Hayes' father after all. Meanwhile, the heartbreak of losing Luna as a child, Finn believed, was as reopens the door for even more complicated feelings. Does Luna have any rightful place in Finn's life if it turns out he has no genetic tie to her? Could they form a bond beyond paternity? Or will the knowledge of April's manipulations place them in too awkward a position to move forward with any kind of connection? All of these potential reverberations ensure that viewers remain on the edge of their seats as Finn edges closer to the final truth. Will he find indisputable proof of April's tampering? Will he confront her personally, luring her into a confession or catching her in the act of forging data? If he obtains that evidence, how will the legal proceedings unfold? And, perhaps most crucially, how will Steffi, Liam, and the rest of the Forster family react when they learn that everything they believed about Hayes' paternity could be based on a lie orchestrated by someone they barely knew? In the midst of this tension, Finn's core motivation remains consistent. He wants to protect his family, especially Steffi and Hayes. The heartbreak of discovering he was never Luna's father only strengthens his resolve to protect the life he's built with his wife and their child. Even if the truth about Hayes stands to break him, he believes that pursuing the facts is the only way to ensure they can move forward without living in a fabricated world of illusions. Yet he also hopes, in his heart of hearts, that once the dust settles, he will still be recognized as Hayes' father, in both name and biology. If that hope is dashed, the emotional toll will be incalculable. Perhaps the most unsettling question is what motivates April. Is she a discontented employee with a vendetta against the Forrester family? Is she embroiled in some blackmail scheme? Or has she simply grown addicted to the power of controlling the destinies of families like the Forresters and Spencers, whose names resonate throughout the fashion industry? Finn aims to uncover those motivations as he hunts for the evidence that will lock her away for good. But time is not on his side. The longer he waits, the greater the chance that rumors might seep out, or that April could catch wind of his investigation and disappear, or worse, strike again. No matter how events unfold, it is clear that Finn's discovery about Luna's false paternity test has already triggered a domino effect. His trust in lab results, once ironclad, is shattered. His mind churns with doubt about Hayes. His heart aches over the lost prospect of raising a daughter he initially believed was his. And his anger flares at the thought of April brazenly toying with lives for her own ends. In classic Bold and the Beautiful fashion, these revelations set the stage for escalating drama, forced confessions, tearful confrontations, and a reckoning that could challenge the very foundation of Finn and Steffi's marriage. Still, viewers know Finn well enough to trust he will keep pushing forward, relying on his intelligence, empathy, and unwavering love for Steffi and Hayes to guide him. If he can secure undeniable proof of April's crimes, he can at least unmask the puppet master behind these tainted tests. The question of Hayes' true paternity, however, may haunt him until the moment he holds a freshly verified lab report in his hands. One not tainted by April's manipulations. One that finally sets the record straight, for better or worse.